that was like me with the training originally. Because I had a guaranteed income at microbes, it was very difficult for me to sort of turn around and go, I'm going to take that night off and I'm going to take another work on the nights where I've already got employment.
So a friend from Amsterdam hasn't made it?
Not on time. Well, no, we've still got 2 minutes. I do vaguely suspect that we're starting without him and the commercial at some point. I checked Facebook this morning and no messages.
Oh, there you go.
He's 2 minutes away.
Hello. Hi James, you alright? Okay. Alright, well we'll just be sort of getting to know each other. So when you get here, just basically, when you get to the mill, come up to the 2nd floor, you'll find where we are, through Serenity, just come in basically. Alright dude, see you shortly. It's alright, mate. He's in a cab now, on the road, on the way to Rochdale, what do you reckon's about 5 minutes left?
You know that clock? And you watch what it's doing? A second forward, a second back. So don't rely on it.
No, I'll be waiting for 10 o'clock. I think I'll use my watch.
When you thought it was an hour and a half in front, it was at 10 and a half hours behind.
Yes.
Oh, hang on.
The clock's got stopped.
Put that on silent. There we go.
We never get very long.
Okay.
That's okay. Yep. Yeah. Alright. He will be with us. We'll just let him walk in when he does. You've sort of already done this bit, but it's easy for me because I wasn't paying attention. So before we begin properly, although you've already done this, so James can't because he's not here yet. Briefly as I always do, why are you here type thing, what's your background and what is it you're hoping to be able to do by the end of the day, so to speak. We'll start with Jed.
Right, I'm Jed Cook. Background is finance, 30 odd years in finance. Now working part-time in a job centre and part-time for Anchor Trust. Got a job, nothing in finance, so. But I've always been interested in all this sort of kind of stuff, but never had the chance all the time really to do anything about it. I've done a life coaching course, which I suppose is as near as it gets. I did a 2-day course.
Who was that with? Coaching?
In Reading, I can't remember what it's called. Still got all the stuff.
Coaching Academy?
Yeah, that's right. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Well, then when I got back, work was complete chaos on it, and you've got to do these case studies and all that sort of stuff, and I never got into it, so that's probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
But I used to do a bit of motivational speaking at work, but also I did one external thing and it was fantastic. For St John's Ambulance, area managers, even though they are area managers.
I was going to say, you'd hope they don't be motivated.
Well, trust me, they did. Pretty grumpy bunch, really. But afterwards, somebody phoned me up and said, that stuff you did on Sunday, I was there on Sunday for Friday, and I work for the NHS and I spoke to my boss and will you come and do some stuff, and I said no. Because I was busy at work, and I thought, how can I fit all this in? So I just said no, which was pretty late in the scale at the time. But
yeah, massive opportunity.
Yeah, it was good. But you know, I was quite happy at work and everything was going alright, so I thought, no, I can't do it. And so I've never really followed it up from there. I suppose that's it.
But it's something you're looking at doing then?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I have the opportunity now. I worked for the job centre the last 18 months and the contract's finishing in July. So I'll only be working 2 days a week. So I've got the opportunity to do something else, you know? So yeah, maybe.
Wayne?
My name's Wayne and I do kind of magic and a whole mixture of random things. And as discussed, and I've decided that it'd be interesting to go down the therapy line. Like, even though I don't do hypnotherapy, I've got people that have asked me to like treat them for X, Y, and Z. So I decided it would probably be beneficial to do a course in hypnotherapy, and hopefully then be able to market myself in that area really, as opposed to just performance.
My name's Stuart, performers, Harrison the Hypnotist, a few chosen in my belt, most of which have been successful, one which wasn't. That's the way it goes. I've spent, well, from the age of 8, been in the entertainment and leisure industry, family shows, straight through to running nightclubs, pubs, health and safety officer on outdoor events, and 3-4 years ago I had the opportunity to start learning hypnosis. Didn't do much with this at the time, but it's now got to the stage where it's become more and more important in life, and well, the rest of employment hasn't, so I've been concentrating on it and looking for it's expanding the knowledge base.
And James will no doubt fill us in later. Right, before we get into for those who've been to events before, you'll already be aware of this. You at the moment, because James not here, I will tend to, during the course of the day, appear to go off on one. And it will appear at certain times to be like, what relevance has that got to do with anything whatsoever? That will actually be a purposeful thing. It will not seem so until after lunchtime, when it all starts to slot together, shall we say. What I tend to do is, I will tend to, shall we say, show you all the bricks that are necessary to build the wall, but not necessarily in the right order, so that you don't spend time over-analysing what that particular brick's about, so that when they do all go together, it should then make more sense than if we went through them in the correct order in the first place. You've already got a rough idea that's what's going to happen, because as it was with other courses. The other warning I will give you is that if you are expecting some highly complicated or magical holy grail technique that is going to enable you to cure people and change their lives, then you may as well go there, because there isn't one. If you are at all wondering how you can possibly in one day go from knowing nothing to being able to legally and arguably confidently be just as skillful as someone who's been doing this for years, when there are courses galore out there advertised on the internet and here, there and everywhere, it takes a week, 3 weeks, or it's every weekend, every other weekend for 12 months. So when you do the maths, it's like you end up doing, what is the maths? 12 by 4 is, you end up doing like 48 days, you end up doing 300 hours training or something. And then you get a bit of paper at the end that says you are registered and legal and you can go out there and do it. And well, if that's apparently what you're supposed to do, how can you possibly, if we're not the morning break, out the afternoon break, lunch hour, how can you in 6 hours end up being able to do what apparently takes 300 hours to learn? That would be a logical thought process, to be honest. And the answer to that is, and well, it's purely opinion, it's got basis in fact from my experience, that 99% of these courses are nothing more than money-making scams. They do not want you to be able to actually leave the course and set up in business, because then that would be another person in their heads in competition with them. So they teach you just enough that you feel you've learned something, but not enough to actually go out there and earn any money from it. Now, when we're dealing with helping people, you'll encounter, especially on these 300-hour-long courses, people do. No, it's not about the money, I'm just about helping people. It's all well and good, but if you're going to help people, I always find it's a lot easier to help people when they're paying you. I always find that it's a lot easier to help people and be relaxed if you're not stressed out about how you pay next month's mortgage or where the money's coming from for your kids' school fees or whatever it is that's going on in your life. If you're sat there thinking about that in the back of your head, how exactly are you supposed to fully pay attention to the client who's paying you money? So, as much as some of what I will say during the day will sound very mercenary and very selfish, however you justify it to yourself, that's your problem, frankly. I would say that you've got to be selfish to be selfless. You've got to help yourself to help other people, and frankly, all these winky-wanky, tree-huggy, coarse, junky types that don't. It's about helping people. It's the positivity I get back and all that. No, they're deluding themselves. They're getting something out of it because it's making them feel good. So they are doing it for selfish reasons, however you look at it. If you just face up to that, then you won't feel as bad about charging people. Right. Unfortunately, before the morning break, we have to go through the boring bits. Now, I call them the boring bits, it's the theory. And this is what would normally take me probably 2 weeks of a 3-week course. However, it isn't going to. It's going to take an hour tops before the morning break. Then, after the morning break, I've got a lady coming in called Marina, who rang Joe, who runs the centre, last week and said she'd got an issue with, you classify it as insomnia. Apparently she's fine when she gets to sleep, but getting to sleep's the problem. She wanted to book a session. I said it's either going to cost you 250 quid, or you can come and have it done for free, but you've got to bear in mind there's going to be 4 people watching it, and that, because then you see what happens in a real session, and then after the real session, e.g. after lunch, and I can break down what I did, that you'll see live, and hopefully by the end of it have some, shall we say, social proof from Marina that she knows that has solved her issues. And then I can break down why I did what I did. And then by the afternoon break, you should realise this is ridiculously simple. And then we'll look at how you can make money out of it. Now, I have given you DVDs to take away. They're going to things. Each of these subjects we'll cover today, they go into in more depth. If you feel the need to look at them, fine. I would say the best use for them is just as refreshing material, because there's nothing else to know. I'm guessing this is James. Hello there, sir.
Hey.
Have a seat, sir. There's also those DVDs that are on that chair and yours.
Okay.
Just before I got to the theory, good time, right? So, right, so we have Jed here, Wayne, Stuart.
Hi.
Hey, this is James. Hey. You'll have to sort of play catch up at the morning break in terms of what you three do, telling James. So, James, just briefly for the group, what's your background, hypno-wise?
Let's see, NLP practitioner. My house expired. Also went to the speed trance with John, where Jonathan was there with Richard Vanguard and John Cervone, and also did some conversational hypnosis stuff with Igor Likowski, the Destruction.
Cool. So I've got a briefly explain what I said to the other guys. Stuff, the way I will explain explain stuff today may, at first sight, totally contradict stuff you've learned before. Those that have looked at stuff, and therefore may, on some level, rattle your belief systems, and I suppose on some levels may even seem quite offensive. And I make no apologies for that. I'm just warning you in advance that will likely happen. This is just the way I explain things. It doesn't mean it's right. What it means is it's what's worked for me for the past 20 odd years. So, anything I write on this board, by all means feel free to take notes, but you don't need to, because it is all in black and white on the course text disc, and it's also there on the videos as well as like a slideshow. Okay, how did I get into all this? And this is really relevant in terms of not just showing off as such, but also pulling the curtain back, shall we say, on how this works. I was born on a circus. My dad, at the time when I was born, circus clown, and also, well, under the name it is a clown, did the circus stuff, clowning as it were. But he also had a persona still in the circus with the makeup off as the amazing actor. Fire-eating, ladder of daggers, bed of nails, glass dancing, all that kind of weird stuff. And my mum did knife throwing, rope spinning, whip cracking, Wild Westy type stuff. So I was born on the circus, age of 3, as is normal in circus. I was brought into the act. So at the age of 3 and a half, I was in the Guinness Book of Records as Britain's youngest paid circus clown, before travelling around the circus. At the moment, you're thinking, what relevance is this to hypnotherapy? It will all become clear, I promise you. I, as usual, like pretty much any kid does in life, got to a point where I rebelled and didn't want to do, just generally in life, didn't want to do what my mum and dad said. But because I had somewhat of a slightly strange upbringing, it wasn't so much about I want to stay out and you're saying I can't, which it might be from normal kids. It was more, I don't want to put the red nose on and the silly outfit and get in the circus ring anymore, you know, because I've spent the past few years when I am actually at school with normal people, getting bullied, getting grief, because I was appearing in like the Daily Mirror newspaper, going into school and it's like, hey, you're in the paper today, oh, you were on telly, I got bullied over it. So to me, that was, in my head, I made up the idea, true or not, that the bullying was because of that, which ultimately it was, and that was my parents' fault. Because of the environment I've been brought up in and the fact that I've been pushed into doing what I was doing. So I wanted to get away from that, so I refused to do it, and it literally was, I'm not doing it, which caused, as you can imagine, a bit of an issue given that a lot of the routines that my dad was doing in the act required 2 people, and I was literally refusing to do it, so that sort of buggered up his, well, the clown side of things was in touch. However, at the age of 4, we'd been working on the Golden Mile in Blackpool, running the Paul Daniels Magic Exhibition, which he was on the pier, but a lot of his illusions and stuff, he had them on show. At the time he was like mega on the telly. So he could get away with charging a couple of quid, it was probably, back then, it was probably 50p, I don't know, inflated. It was back in 1979. But people paying them to come in and look at stuff that had been used on the TV show, and little video clips and historical shite. But at the end of the exhibition, he had all these different tricks on sale. And the money I was getting paid, I started buying these tricks. So by the time I got to DNA, I'd already become quite adept at magic. So when I rebelled against my dad, as it were, I realised that as though I'd now removed what was the cause of the bullying, shall we say, that there was still a feeling of there being a gap, because the one thing I did actually enjoy was audiences doing that. I also enjoyed the money as well, don't get me wrong, because I was, you know, earning more than the teachers were, frankly. So it became logical to do something that my dad couldn't do, and wasn't what they wanted me to, so that in my head I could justify it as I'm still rebelling, so I'm winning and taking control. But to fulfill those needs, shall we say, of the clapping, the money, the so-called perception of being a celebrity, all that crap, call it what you will, was to go into doing magic, because my dad couldn't do that. Well, not sleight of hand stuff that actually took some skill and practice. So that's what I did. And I was doing shows doing that for a number of years, and during the course of that, I read a heck of a lot of books on psychology. And but it's a bit weird in that, because in the adult library, which is where I used to go, even though I could have to get it out of my mum's library card, but where they classified the magic books was under like sports and pastimes in the adult library. And right next to it, on the shelf here, right next to them was all the self-help and self-improvement books. So next to like this big book on magic that I was taking out, I see this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. So that came in. I thought, how to win friends and influence people. Well, that's the opposite of getting your head kicked in every day at school, isn't it? So it seemed, you know, pretty logical to get a book like that. And as time went on, there are other books there, including books on what we call hypnosis, or NLP, or it doesn't matter what title you give it. They have different titles, but what I came to the conclusion of is that they're all identical. They're all, and you're going to wonder what was the point of coming in today when I tell you this, they're all a load of absolute bollocks. That's what they are. They're all a crock of shit. They're all fundamentally the biggest pack of lies that you will ever encounter. None of them, whether you call it NLP, hypnotherapy or whatever, none of them, unless you are fortunate enough to encounter, I'm not saying just me, there are one or two other people out there that are honest enough and won't lie to you, or are not brainwashed by the people who taught them. Because unfortunately NLP and hypnotherapy tends to go along the lines of someone with no knowledge about it or experience goes on a course. And when they've done that course, they get brainwashed that now they're a practitioner. What would be a good idea is to do some kind of advanced practitioner course to take it to the next level. So they do. And it's a bit like pyramid selling. So whether it's hypnotherapy, NLP, whatever title you give it, they get brainwashed that they don't quite know enough. Ideally they need to know this as well. So they do that. Now during the course of this, they become sort of dependent on people teaching them and that feeling around them in the training. So they then feel the need that, yeah, it might be a good idea to do the trainer-train course. Now during the course of this trainer-train course, where they're going to get a piece of paper saying that they're now able to teach other people these skills, right? When they've never done it in the real world whatsoever. But they're going to be able to, at the end of this, once they part with even more money to the trainer, they're going to get this bit of paper, and they also get brainwashed into them, because it's a money-making thing for the person teaching them, that, you know, they will be able to, but obviously these certificates and certifications that they're going to give out as a licensed trainer of this course, or this school persona thing, need to be countersigned, okay? Not by this person who they've gone on the course with, but by the person who's taught that tutor. So we take NLP as an example, let's say, created by a guy called Richard Bandler, well, with some other people, John Grinny, but we'll just take Richard Bandler as an example. Someone goes on Richard Bandler's course, they do the practitioner, advanced practitioner, and then it gets to this trainer, they've done it, they've got a bit of paper, they can go off, they can set up and say, you know, Society of NLP, Richard Bandler, licensed approved trainer, and you will get, you know, you come on this course, it's validated by the man who created it, Richard Bandler, and you'll get a piece of paper signed by him. People come on this course, and the process starts again with another stranger. And each time they get a certificate, every level of the way, it has to be signed by the head of the pyramid, who charges a fee for that to the guy who's running this training course. So constantly, all these people are being sent out there ultimately to shed loads of money for the guy at the top to sign bits of paper without having to do any work. And that's the same when you call it hypnotherapy, NLP, pretty much the same in any area of alternative or complementary medicine. It's a monetary making scam. Fact. You do your investigation, it is. And when you become aware of the fact it's a monetary making scam, you can avoid yourself from getting ripped off. I can tell you now by the end of today, if you choose to believe what I tell you, and I'm actually going to say to you, don't, go and prove it to yourself if you want. Go and waste thousands of pounds and hours of your life doing these long drawn out courses to hopefully, if you use your brain cells, realise that everything I tell you today is in fact true. By all means, waste money and do that. Or just actually decide to put into action what I teach you today, what I demonstrate today, because we've got a real client coming after the morning break and we're going to do a proper real session on them before we break down what we did and why we did it. And the DVDs that I give you to take away. Look at them, because there's like 20 hours of training on them. Albeit those 20 hours of training, still, albeit it teaches you different techniques and different ways to use the hammer, so to speak. The hammer can, it's a claw hammer, can pull nails out, put nails in. You could use it as a door stop. You could hit someone on the head. So it's, you know, it's got many different uses, but ultimately it's still a pissing hammer. And that is what we're sort of dealing with it. Now, okay, so that's the scam of conventional hypnosis training. The first thing you need to know is there is no legally recognised or government validated qualification, certification, accreditation, call it what you will, for hypnotherapy, NLP or anything of a similar name or nature anywhere in England or Europe. Fact. Any piece of paper you get from anyone, however much money it's cost you, however many hours you've done the training course for, is only as good as the person teaching you. It is only as good as your ability to put that into action. It is only as good as the perception you give out to your clients. Because what we are ultimately dealing with is nothing more than two things. Nothing more than mind tricks and the placebo effect. The placebo effect. That is all we're dealing with. Nobody on this planet has ever hypnotised anyone. Big hypnosis doesn't exist. Now, clearly, most trainers won't tell you that because they want you to go on another course and another course and another course. But it doesn't. Yet I've made my living, and you know, I said I'd go off on one. I was telling you a story, I only got up to about the age of 8. Now, in NLP, they tell you this going off on one. They give it a fancy title, they call it telling a magic story and laying down layers so you've left something open. So at the end, when you then fill in the blanks, it all comes together and it's supposed to give you more of a realisation. No, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because my mind goes off on one. I'm going to tell you the truth. Fact, it's got no, there's no unconscious learning rubbish going on here. It's just the truth. The fact is, there are so many that there are 1,000,001 studies and all these so-called credible courses will come out with them and say this proves that hypnosis exists and there's chemical changes in the brain and that there is a thing called the trance state. The fact is, if you close your eyes now, close them, breathe in and out, open your eyes. That's as close as you're ever going to get to being hypnotised. Now the truth of the matter is, The moment you close your eyes and you breathe in and out, yes, it does create a chemical change in the brain. As does every thought, action or movement or thing you do in life. Everything, it's got nothing to do with the word hypnosis, it's got nothing to do with a trance. It's got nothing... The only thing it possibly has anything to do with is with belief. Okay? Now, belief is very important, as we're going to cover during the day. But to get belief, there's two elements of belief. It's what you believe as the person doing it, and how you transmit that to the client, and it's also what the client perceives. But the wonderful thing about the word belief is that the lie is inside them. Because that's what we're doing, complete and utter rubbish. But if we put the letters back in, you have got to be the lie. And we'll put the F back for them. You have got to be the lie for them. You've got to act, look, give the intent out that you are doing something mystical, magical. You've got to give the impression that what you're doing is going to have this major effect on them and help them. Whereas in truth, all you're going to be doing is utilising and harnessing the power of the placebo effect. And various mind tricks to convince them something special has happened to them. So that when they think something special has happened to them, you can feel something physically, and that'll become clear as the day goes on. Then they'll think logically, albeit it's false logic, but they'll think, if I just physically felt that was suggested to me and it happened, then logically, these suggestions I'm being given that I'll stop smoking or lose weight or whatever should occur as well. So the person will tie their mind around that idea and come to believe it, and so it kicks in the placebo effect. It doesn't get any more complicated than that, and yet it is that simple. It's complicated by its simplicity, because it's down to you to realise, understand and believe that that is the fact, and then get over that unfortunate disillusionment and that it isn't complicated, and be able to present what the... That's the strangest heckle I've ever heard.
A real life cartoon character outside.
To be able to project this persona of what they expect. Now, there would have been a time when I said to you, if you're doing a therapy session, for example, you must have the suit, shirt and tie on, and you must look very clinical, medical GP-ish, and for some people that would still be relevant. However, socially speaking, with more and more change workers, therapists, call them what you will, appearing on television, increasingly the people that are appearing on television and in the lifestyle magazines, the women's magazines, are all sort of very... It's more celebrity culture magazines where this is being seen by the public, and it is very much the wearing jeans and casual stuff, which is what I am today, as opposed to a suit. Whereas for those that were on the rapid induction seminar, I pointed out it's damn sight easy to get people under if you look like you're dressed better than everybody else, hence the suit, and that's why we're getting people like Saxon shit. So, I was doing the magic, I was getting the books, and I realised that magic is about misdirection. It's about doing one thing, but diverting the audience's attention away from it, so that you can do something that they're not aware of, so that their perception of it, the end result, is different than what's happened in reality, and is way out of proportion to what you've actually done. So a really impressive looking trick may have only required you to misdirect someone's attention for a few seconds so that you can move one card in a deck somewhere else, you know where it is. But the impression that this person gets is that some miracle's taking place. That's why they say, you know, if you actually know the secrets behind the trick, suddenly it's a bit disappointing. So it is, frankly, with so-called hypnosis and NLP. It's, you know, you can spend weeks practicing these, and that's one thing we're also not going to be doing today. Or if we do it, we'll only be on one thing this afternoon. We're not going to break you up into pairs and have you practicing on each other. It's pointless. It's totally pointless because human nature says that in a training environment, A, it's not the right environment, and B, people, nobody, no human being wants to experience failure or feeling bad. So we'll do anything we can to avoid that feeling, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. Thus meaning, the majority of people, whether consciously or unconsciously, will, in a training environment, do and react in the manner that they want the other person to react for them, so that they end up feeling good. So therefore, that's the total opposite of what you're going to get in the real world. It's pointless exercise. The other fact is that in this environment, people would know, for example, that you've never done it before in some case, or that you have. So there's different perceptions going on. Whereas, as after I'd been reading all these books, I got to the age of about 13 and I saw an advert in Exchange of Mart, and it said, become a hypnotherapist. From 50 to £100 an hour. That was back in 1989, no, 88, 89. I thought, sounds like quite good money. So I sent off the prospectus, got it, sent off the money, which I could afford because I was getting it from the magic shows, studied it and thought, this is ridiculously easy, but I've come up with an even easier way of doing it. Because I was reading the course and I came up with an even easier way as I was reading it. Can I tweak something? Which I'm going to tell you in a minute. Thanks. We'll just press on with that noise there. I tweaked the biggest key to all this, in terms of learning it, was the person has got to believe, in this context, that you're a hypnotherapist, if you're going to call yourself that. Or if you're going to call yourself an NLP practitioner, you're going to believe that you are. Or you could call it, I don't know, Tibetan mind control. It doesn't matter. They're going to believe that you believe and are trained and skilled and experienced in whatever technique, under whatever name you're using, that they are paying for your services for. So I tweaked that, and it's pretty much the same with magic. The more you look professional, like you've done it for ages, the easier it was to get a higher fee out of people, for sure. The more in demand you were, the more you could get away with a simple trick. They credit it as being wonderful, because it must be, because why would you, as a, this perceived professional, be doing a dead simple trick? It's all about the environment that had been laid out. Oh, they can't find this. After the Martin Gray. So I tweaked that, key point number one. Key point number two is I realised that under the guise of being a hypnotherapist makes it even easier than an NLP practitioner, or at least it did in that time era, because so-called NLP practitioners were a lot about keeping your eyes open and doing it with your eyes open. Now it has moved more and more into, as part of the process, getting to close their eyes, but not with any sort of formal trance, apparently, but getting to close their eyes to make it easier to visualise. Well, I think if people have got their eyes closed, they can't see what you're doing. Nice. Okay. So, what I did was, and this is true, I took the course manual from this hypnotherapy course I've done, I took it to the library and I photocopied the pages that had the scripting for stopping smoking, and put that in one folder. And I photocopied the one that was for weight loss and put that in another folder. I photocopied the one that said confidence issues, put that in a folder. And I photocopied the one that was for like skin problems, that I think is about. It didn't actually cover phobias in this course. We'll get onto that later. So I had them there. Then I photocopied what they classed as being the induction, getting them hypnotised bit. And I had them in a briefcase. And I put my adverts out. And the adverts basically plug the fact, you know, stop smoking, lose weight, get confidence issues, skin problems. The things I have the scripts for. So I get the session. They pay the money. At the time I went to them, because I didn't have an office, and frankly the idea of getting an office at the age of 14, which is was a bit ludicrous. So I just reframed that, as they call it in NLP, and I said, look, I come to you because obviously you're going to be more relaxed and feel more safe and secure in your own environment at home. So that immediately removed the, you know, the reason of, oh, why has he not got an office? And I put it in a context where it made false, admittedly, but logic to them, so that they could believe it made sense. I'd get there, I would apparently, you know, gain rapport with them, as they say. It's really irrelevant, gaining rapport. It's all a load of crap. It's as simple as, I was nice to them. That's it. Oh, what's your name? Oh, it doesn't have to be complicated. I asked them to lie down or sit down. And this is the key phrase that I came up with. And to this day I still use it. And when, after the morning break, the genuine clients arise, you will hear me use this phrase quite a lot. And that phrase is, just so long as you keep your eyes tightly closed at all times, just so long as you continue using your powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration, then our work here together today will prove itself to be 100% successful in every way, shape and form. The wording is very important. NLP spends way too much time giving things fancy titles. The phraseology, just so long as, this is implying that all the onus is on them. They've got to do it, it's putting the obligation on them. So, just so long as you keep your eyes tightly closed at all times. Well, people have this misconception that if you're hypnotised and out there, that your eyes are closed. So we're going to make sure they don't open their eyes partway through and go, I don't think this is working. We're going to make sure to keep your eyes closed for this period of 30, 40 minutes. So at the end of it, when you open your eyes, they feel a bit disorientated because they've been there for 30, 40 minutes listening to you. So they think, oh, something strange has gone on. By putting it in the head in a subtle manner that just keep your eyes closed, otherwise you'll screw up everything and it won't work. If we said that, it becomes a bit transparent. So we use the phraseology, just so long as you keep your eyes tightly closed at all times. And continue to use, implying, or in NLP they'd use a fancy term, presupposition, just implying that they've already been using their powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration, which makes their ego feel good and makes them feel good about themselves. And when you praise people, they like it, makes them feel good. And just so long as you continue using your powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration effectively, then this, you know, the work we do here together today will, future case in NLP calls it, implying that it's definitely going to happen, will prove itself to be 100% successful. That phraseology, used at the beginning, does most of the job for you. And if it doesn't, for some reason, have the result that they would have hoped, they can't really argue about it too much, because clearly they've done something wrong, not you. You never fail. There's no failure with the way I do therapy. Unlike some ways to teach. You can't fail. It's always their fault when it doesn't work. And when it does work, it's always because you're such a wonderful therapist. You can't lose. So, I came up with that phrase. They've now got their eyes closed. They've got a motivation to keep them closed. And that was very important. I discovered over the years that was important because when your eyes are closed and you're hearing someone talk to you for a projected period of time, that it does become a bit disorientating, and you lose track of time. You might think it was less than it was, or you might think it was more than it was at the end, but either way, you know, that can be twisted and presented as being evidence that, oh, great, that shows me that you were in the right frame of mind for this to be successful. Which will become clearer later when you see me actually do that. No, I hope that's not right, otherwise. You are?
Couldn't sit down. Seems very difficult.
Well, we'll be nipping down the morning break. It might be a slight distraction.
Another room on, you need camera, so I'm saying another room on there.
It's the only other reason. But still. No, I'm just thinking for the client. Right, we'll build that in, because we'll merely use the phrase, no noises will distract you whatsoever. In fact, any noises will merely serve as a sign and a signal that you're fully in control at all times. And that awareness of those things going on in the environment around you is merely a sign and a signal of how wonderfully you're using your powers of intelligence, imagination, and concentration. So, it's just twist, we'll just twist it like that. So, after. Great. So, they've got their eyes closed, they've got a motivation for keeping them closed, a false logic admittedly, but a logic nonetheless for why this is going to work. Once their eyes were closed, I opened very quietly my briefcase and I took out the script for what this course said was the induction and essentially read it word for word. And if I'd then been booked for smoking, say, I would take out the smoking script at the end of that and read that word for word. Or it'd be the weight loss one for a weight loss client, obviously, common sense there. And then at the end of that, I'd take out the one that said, awakening them from trance, and I'd read it word for word until it got to just near the end, which was classically, you know, in a few moments' time, we'll cover this later, but in a few moments' time, I'm going to count from 1 to 10. On the count of 10, and only on the count of 10, you'll instantly be able to open your eyes. And when you do everything I said, I'll remain with you, grow more positive and beneficial for you in every way, every day, and all this waffle. And I put the script away once I got to sort of the number 7, so I've been counting on, because I could remember the last 3 numbers. And I put it away in the briefcase, and I go, and on 8, like to write a 9, almost as if all the stresses, tensions, worries, fears, and apprehensions of days, weeks, months, and years gone by are leaving your mind, leaving your body right now, almost through every nerve, fibre, tissue, and muscle in your body's being washed with pure spring water, re-energising, revitalising you in every way. And on 10, you can open your eyes just when it feels right for you. And they'd open their eyes, and they were none the wiser. Because ultimately, in their perception, in their belief, in their reality, call it what you will, justify it however you want. The fact is, they're seeing an advert for a hypnotherapist, or whatever title you need to use. Hypnotherapy just makes it that bit easier because there is a preconceived notion from TV shows, from the media of, oh, it's something magical in your reality. So they're seeing an advert. They grow up. Obviously on the phone, I handled it in a manner that, yes, I've dealt with this problem many times before. Oh yes, you know, it's got a fantastic success rate. So it's about building up that belief more. Comes to the day of treatment, the part of the money, I always get the money up front, often. We won't be doing it today, because I'll let the lady come for free in exchange for being watched, which will make it a slightly stranger experience. But I get the money up front because then they made a financial commitment. In their own head, by paying that money, they're saying this is going to work. By having picked up the phone and ringing in the first place to book a session, they're saying to themselves, now is the time for change. By showing up for that session and paying the money, they're further saying, now is the time to change. In therapy, there's a word, well, in psychology generally, a phrase, cognitive dissonance. And they go into loads of depth about what it means, no rush. My simplified version is this. A human being who gets ripped off, let's say, by a con man, will often do everything they can to deny or justify what happened, rather than saying, yeah, I got ripped off, I was stupid. Because the idea of admitting they got ripped off and were stupid, it makes them feel bad. It's a knock to the ego, it makes them feel silly and what have you. So if they can come up with false justifications, it makes them feel better, but it wasn't their fault. In the same way, if someone pays for therapy, they don't want to walk away and have to admit to themselves that, no, it's not worked, I've wasted money or I've wasted time. They want to be able to go away and make themselves feel good and go, it's worked, it was an intelligent decision, and they want to be able to tell friends and family who they may have already mentioned it to that it was a worthwhile experience, because otherwise they're going to feel daft in themselves. We're essentially manipulating people's egos and standard human frailties and stuff, but with a positive intent of helping. That's all we're doing. We're acting as, if you like, facilitators. We as therapists never do anything that the person can do for themselves. Unfortunately, human nature is people don't want to have to admit that it's their fault to have this problem. So if you want to see a therapist, they're externalising it, because obviously if the therapist helps them overcome it, it's justification to them and to all the people around them that they couldn't have got over this any earlier in their life without having seen a therapist. So it removes that experience of having to go, why have I wasted all these years? What's going on at a deep level? So I realised that so that experience ultimately is they booked a session, they paid the money, they made a commitment, the psychological framework's there, especially the phraseology like that. It works, you're a great therapist. If it doesn't, they've done something wrong. If there is, and this is something we'll cover later on in the day, but if there is any worth or value to the certain way that you can structure words for the meaning that they then have to people, then arguably these scripts that I was reading out had already been written in the correct manner, so the word structure was there. We'll cover how to do that later. So that bit was in place. As far as they were concerned, once their eyes were closed, I was talking to them, which is what they expected. And at the end, they opened their eyes, they felt a bit disorientated. That's what they expected. They had no knowledge that I'd never done this before. For the first time I went down and took money off someone, it was the first time, obviously, and the second time it was the second time. But as far as they were concerned, I'd done loads of clients successfully. Because you never tell them it's the first time you've done it. And yes, some of these people, especially because I was only 14, and I was lying about my age, I was 18. I didn't look 18, did I? So I might have passed the 16, possibly.
I'll see the photos tonight.
That's right. Well, okay. But you know, cognitive distance, when I showed up, they don't want to then think, oh, we made the wrong choice here. So they go with it. And as long as you keep up that persona, they'll go with it, they'll believe. They'll get dragged into it, they have to. And yeah, they would occasionally, you know, ask to see, oh, are you qualified and all this? And I go, oh yeah, yes, people sometimes ask that. Convenient. This was the excuse for having the briefcase as well, because in there with the folder with all the diplomas in, don't really get schedules and they're already on the disc I've given you to print out. We've got my electronic signature on, and you just put whatever date on you want, and your name, and there you go, you've been qualified for the past 5 years. Now that's technically criminal fraud, so don't do that. I'm not saying you should do that. Obviously, if you were to do that, the only way it wouldn't be fraud is if you accidentally type the wrong number in and weren't consciously aware of that as to when you qualified. But otherwise, it would be fraud. And obviously, you've got to know to legally use any piece of paper, this is the only law that does apply, is that you must have the competence to do that which the piece of paper says you can do. Well, as you can all speak and you can all read, I'd say it's safe to say right at this moment in time you could take a script out of the case and read it and put it away again before the end of the session. I'm not suggesting that's what you do, but you could. So arguably you were already competent enough to do what a large percentage of therapists out there do every day of their life. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. However, at the end of today, I promise you, you will not need to pull a script out of the case. There's even easier ways of doing things that I found over the years, because that's how I started out, because I was still in the state of mind, even though I twigged they've got to keep their eyes closed, even though I twigged there was, if you like, some mind tricks going on, I still thought at that time that maybe those words that were being spoken, maybe it's the way they're structured, and it has some kind of effect on the brain, and that it really, and I still was searching for this holy grail, this magical secret, this wonderful healing technique. It must be in these words. After doing this for, that was 14, what am I, nearly 36, so after hypnotising people all over the world, after everything you can bloody think of, I've come to the conclusion, definitely from experience, that it's nothing more than a placebo effect. In the past few years, I wanted to see what others, so-called experts, thought about that. And if you do enough digging, pretty much any eminently famous hypnotherapist that there's ever been, that gets quoted by these respectable, credible schools as proof of things going on in the head. You get books such as, they call it Hypnosis by Robert A. Baker. You will find quotes from pretty much all of them and evidence that there is no such thing as trance, there is no such thing as hypnosis, that it is nothing more than a placebo effect. But obviously they don't ban that out too much, these training schools, because it's sort of mind books and people off doing courses. Which, just to fill in the logical reasoning of the way your brains are probably working, is, then why am I telling you this? When ultimately, if this is true, what I'm saying, then that would mean there's no need whatsoever for you to ever come on any other courses with me, or anyone for that matter. Why would I stand here and effectively create a situation where you're not going to spend any more money with me at any time? Unless you suddenly decide to come on one of my reading courses, i.e. something that's completely different to this. Alright, that would be logically okay, because it's completely different. But in terms of hypnotherapy, what we're here for today, the fact is, I am, by the end of the day, going to create a situation where you will not ever spend another penny on a hypnotherapy training course with me, and hopefully, if you've got any sense, with anyone else. And unless it's for your own amusement, you won't spend any money on hypnotherapy training DVDs or books either. You won't get swept up by this bollocks that these so-called credible organisations brainwash people into, that you've got to have continuing professional development and keep going on courses. Of course they want you to keep going on courses because the money's going in their bloody pocket. No, the best way you will learn, grow and become better in this field is to actually treat people for real, in the real world, not in the training room, doing it for real people where you can manipulate the environment so that they believe that your experience is incredible, so that you can get everything right to be able to create the cure, the end result for the person. So that's what I did at the age of 40. I did, I will admit, fall into the trap for a few years after that of going on courses and spending money, because I was searching for this holy grail. It can't be that simple. That's what my head said to me. And it was still saying that to me after I'd been on BBC, GMR radio, live radio, whilst on air getting interviewed at the age of 16 about, oh, they thought I was 18. I was 18 for about 4 years, and then no, I was in any media article from 1989 to the point where I was 18. I was 18, which was a bit weird, but there you go. But I was on the live radio, being interviewed about it, and somebody rang in and goes, I smoke 40 a day, can you stop me? And I said, you know, this isn't the ideal context, should I say, because clearly they want to stop, Or is it they just want to try and make someone look a bit stupid on the radio while they get 15 minutes of fame? It's not the same as someone seeing an ad where they know they have to part with money. So I was going to sort of talk my way out of it. I'll say, you know, get my number off the radio station and call me, because then if she had, could have gone into the level of it's going to cost you this, and then the environment would have been right. But the radio presenter turned around and went, yeah, I'm sure he'll do that for you. In fact, we'll be there. We'll set this up. Yeah, we'll be there and we'll follow your progress. That was things happen. I'm now obliged to do this. So it comes to the day of it, and they're there with the recording equipment in their therapy office, because they're not allowed to broadcast a hypnotic induction. It might send people as people home. The point is, it'd be incredibly boring for them anyway. They just want to get sound bites they can put out. So I did the session, and I broadcast a bit of it, and then about a fortnight later, they contacted her on air and said, have you smoked anything since? And I'm sat at home, I wasn't in the studio because this was done over the phone, this talk, and I hear her go, yes. And it seemed like forever, but then she followed it up with, I had half a cigarette when I left the office, but it tasted like awesome. So suddenly I'm thinking, oh, good, because that was one of the suggestions that I'd actually, one of the things I'd verbalised. And then she went on to go, no, I haven't smoked anymore since. I thought, thank God for that, we got away with that. Brilliant, it was a great habit, I got all the clients out. And the clients I got out of that, oddly enough, guess what? When they came, they already believed it was going to work for them. The job was already done. I didn't have to do anything, so just essentially tell them to close their eyes, keep them closed. Because the state of mind was there, and that's what it's about, getting that state of mind where you can flip the switch and make the change. Now, as the day goes on, you realise, we're going to be doing some physical stuff as well, each of us, in terms of techniques, but as you realise that this is the harsh reality of it, you might think, well, is it really ethical to be using tricks? And what I say is, if you watch the film Leap of Faith with Steve Martin in it, it's about a fraudulent evangelical preacher, healing people and all that. And at one point he gets stopped by this policeman who's really trying to expose him for the fraud that he is. And he says, look, just admit it, you're a fraud, aren't you? There's no one else around. And his comment was, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But what's it matter just so long as the job gets done? Now, I'm not saying I agree with the evangelical preachers, because frankly, you know, history and evidence shows that some of them sadly do encourage people to give up medication that they need from doctors, and it can be life-threatening. But if someone's got a psychologically caused problem, which can have physical manifestations, you've heard of people, you'll see on telly or in magazines, people who've not walked after a traumatic incident of rage, and then suddenly one day something else traumatic or emotional occurs and snaps them out of it, and it's like a miracle. Well, if it's been caused psychologically, it can be undone psychologically. Clearly it can, because that's what caused it. Now, some physical things are caused psychologically. That will make more sense as the day goes on. When you realise that, anything psychologically, anything in your head, is only a matter of your own reality, and that's based on what your belief is. 6, 7 people can see a car accident. They see the same car accident, they're stood in essentially the same area. When the police come to take statements, if you were to compare the statements afterwards, it's like they've all seen totally different accidents. Because we all perceive things differently. So the most important thing is to look the part, act the part. You know, you've been doing this for ages. Yes, there is the way around it, trying to go into people's place, their home. What I tend to do these days, if it makes the job even easier, I would hire a room here, or in a plush hotel. Because it saves the cost of having an office. Okay. Or one of these, what do we call them? What's the actual term for them?
Virtual offices.
Yeah, virtual office. Like in Manchester, they've got them. You can hire, you know, half a day. An office with a lovely leather suite and a desk, and it looks the business on the most prestigious street in Manchester. Or even better, you instantly become a Harley Street hypnotherapist. Now in England, there's two main places to think of: Harley Street in London or Rodney Street in Liverpool. Each country's got its own version of that. The place that's classed as medical expertise. If you're on that street, you must be good at what you do. Here's the fact: you can hire an office on Harley Street, as I have done at number 10 Harley Street, for, it varies, but you can get it as cheap as £100 for half a day. As cheap as 150 quid for a full day. A full day being about 8 in the morning till about 8 o'clock at night. If you're charging your clients 250 quid a time, which is nothing in London, especially when you're a perceived Harley Street hypnotherapist, client number 1, you're already in profit, including your train fare to get there. But you're going to be with that client an hour maximum. You can see a few more clients that day. You just book them all in on the one day. Well, immediately, because you can advertise. Book a session with me at my Harley Street clinic. The perception, you must be good. The general public don't realise 99% of the people on Harley Street, except for the medical GPs, and even they, a lot of them, just hire the offices as and when they need them, because that's their private, that's their cream of money, as opposed to their out-of-town GP's practice on the NHS. They're hiring the thing. It's all about perception more than belief, and the environment is so, so, so important. I guarantee going to someone in Harley Street, or going to someone and walking in the office and there is, you know, the leather reclining chair, there's the bookshelf with all these psychology books on, there's diplomas all on the wall. That's going to be more impressive than walking in, you know, going to someone's house and they've just got a little office in a spare room. It's the perception. The environment here is more impressive from a general public point of view than going to someone's house and going in the spare room, because when they walk through the doorway, the first thing they see is signs saying healing centre. You've got all your obligatory books on the bookshelf. You've got a reception desk. This is where the healing takes place. You've got Chris, a slightly more new agey approach as opposed to the medical approach. Depends on what market you're going for. But decide on your market. Never try to be all things to all people. Decide on what your market's going to be. Are you going to go down the spiritual new age route for your clients, or are you going to go down the people who are addicted or want to lose weight and housewives? Identify where you want to make money from and structure your marketing so that it seems credible to that target audience. Because when you identify who your target audience is and then make your marketing relevant to them, so it pushes their emotional hot buttons and ties into the kind of thing they'll be reading in the magazines that they read, that they'll be seeing on the TV shows that they watch, then they're automatically going to have more belief and expectation in coming to you is going to work for them than just seeing a generalised adding. Like the prime example of this is if you get yellow pages in England, I'm sure there's different versions, different places in the world, and look under hypnotherapists. You'll see therapists that have got what I call a scattergun approach. Now, in fairness, I started off doing that back in 1989, and it'll say, you know, stop smoking, lose weight, wipe your cat's ass, they do everything. And they pay for a massive ad, so you think they're raking it. And yet you can have a small ad and just decide that all you're going to advertise, say, is that you are a specialist weight management consultant. So you've identified your market, it says specialist weight management consultant, there's nothing else mentioned on there. That's going to stand out more than the big ad. 2 people that want to lose weight, that is. Well, that's the market you're looking for. And when they do see it, because you're a specialist, and clearly that's all you're offering, compared to the advert next to it where 1,001 things are being offered, they're going to think, jack of all trades, this person must be good. And because it's not as big an ad, bizarrely, at an unconscious level, they'll also think you've got, you don't feel that you've got to prove anything. So bizarrely, it will create a psychological environment that the people that do, and that's the key, the people that do ring you up to book a session. So all well and good having scattered one out, you might get loads of calls, but are they going to be in the total right frame of mind? The people that do ring you, when you use your approach like that, are already going to be 99.9% recurring, in the right state of belief and expectation. And at a moment in their life where they've decided now is the time for change, so they'll be ready to make that commitment to themselves, which means, essentially, 99.9% of your job is already done. On that note, we're going to have, it's 15:15 on my watch, it's 10:15 on there, it's 11:15 on my watch. You have a break, we're going to start 11:30 on the dot, please, because that's the time I've told our client that we will be doing the insomnia session. And then we'll sing in action, and then after lunch we'll explain why I did what I did, and hopefully it'll become a lot clearer. Yes.
Oh, it's